Yeah. Good morning, class. So let us begin with today's lecture. So first, what I'll do. Recap whatever till now we discussed. Okay. So on the uh, Shallow Foundation, we discussed around some 3-4 concepts. Okay. So let me write down those things. So we started with our unit 4. Okay. So that is. So my voice is audible, right? Please respond. Anybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And my screen also visible, right?
Yes, sir.
So we started our new unit 4, that is shallow foundations. Okay. So when we will call a foundation as a shallow foundation, if its depth is less than or equal to the width. Okay. So vice versa, your breadth is less than or equal to width of your footing, then we can call a foundation as a shallow foundation. Okay. So in the shallow foundations, we have seen different types of foundations. Okay. So like strip footing. Then some combined footings we see, and then raft foundations or raft footing, raft or mat. Okay, so these are the different kinds of shallow foundations. So and then if we come to after this, we went to the failure mechanisms in shallow foundation. Okay, so how many failure mechanisms are there? No? How many are there? So there are three failure mechanisms. Okay, so first one is what is the first one? General shear failure. So usually occurs in dense soil. Okay. And then what is the second one? Local shear failure. So usually occurs in medium dense sand. Medium dense sand or soil, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And what is the third uh, what is the third type of failure? Punching shear. Punching shear failure. Okay. So usually occurs in very loose soil. In loose soil, this will occur. So after discussing in detail about failure mechanism in soil, what we discussed? We discussed that Terzaghi's bearing capacity theory, right? So what is the Terzaghi's bearing capacity theory? Bearing capacity theory. So he proposed this theory in 1943. 1943. So he has done some assumptions. Okay, so those assumptions you should understand those assumptions. Okay, so based on the assumptions itself, sometimes they ask in the VTU exams what are the Terzaghi's bearing capacity assumptions. Okay, so main assumptions I will write down here. First assumption is it is applicable to what? Shallow foundations. Then soil is homogeneous. And semi-infinite. Semi-infinite. And what is the third assumption? Enough shear resistance will be there. Our foundation is rough also, you can write. Okay, so foundation surface is rough, so that no sliding failure occurs. Okay, and then fourth one, no consolidation. Okay, no consolidation settlement. Okay, and then so whatever settlement is occurring, that is due to shear deformation. Okay, so there is no consolidation. Then what he did, fifth assumption, recall it. So he did not consider the soil above the foundation. See, this is my foundation. Okay, so if this is my foundation and this is my ground level. So how we did? So first this wedge zone will form. Okay, this wedge zone will form, and then okay, this figure I will write separately. Okay, so here what the fifth assumption is, he did not consider the shear contribution from this soil. Okay, so whatever, suppose this is my depth of foundation, not considered the shear contribution from soil present above the footing. Okay, so that is his fifth assumption. Okay, so that is one of the important assumption. Okay, and then some more assumptions. What are those? Sixth one, we call them what you can say, yeah, the loads are vertical. Okay, so there is no inclined load. Okay, so all the loads on foundation passes through what? Centroid of the footing. Passes through centroid of footing. That means there is no scope for the application of any inclined load. Inclined load should not be there. Okay, so these are the few major assumptions of the Terzaghi's bearing capacity theory. Okay, so based on this assumption, what he derived equations to calculate the safe bearing capacity for the soil. Okay, so let me draw here the figure. So suppose this is my foundation. Okay. Okay, so and my ground level is somewhere here. This is my ground level, and my footing level is there, and this is what my depth of footing. Okay, so this is the depth of footing. So, and load also I should show. Okay, so let me show the load here. So this is the the load is here. This is my load Q. Okay, so this is the depth of footing df, and this is my breadth of footing breadth. Okay, so what he started with, he started with only stiff footing. Okay, so for stiff footing, and general shear failure. Okay, so general shear case, and for the stiff footing he started with in the 1943. Okay, so how the failure mechanism was, initially there was a this wedge zone will form. Okay, so this wedge zone will form first when we start applying. What will happen once you start applying the load, a small settlement will begin with small settlement. Okay, so once the settlement is bigger, then first this wedge will fail. Once this wedge will fail, then what will happen, this this radial shear zone will form. Okay, so this radial shear zone will form up to here. Okay, then what will happen, once this radial shear zone, then it will become a straight line. So this is a straight line. Okay, so this is the log spiral shape. This is the log spiral shape, then it will become a straight line. Okay, so same holds good even on the right hand side. Okay, so your right hand side, if I draw it, log spiral. Okay, so up to here it will be log spiral, then it will become a straight line. Okay, so this is what, this is zone 1. Let me write it right. So this is zone 1, and this is zone 2, and this is my zone 3. Okay, so he so here whatever the soil is there, see this, all the soil shear strength he has neglected. Okay, so this soil will act as a surcharge load here. What is that surcharge load? That is Q. Q is equal to nothing but the whatever the unit weight of this soil is there, that unit weight times your depth of the footing. Q into gamma, Q is equal to gamma into PF. Okay, so what are the zone 1? What do you call the zone 1 as? So zone 1 is what? Wedge zone. Okay, and what is the this one? Second zone. So this zone 2 is called as radial shear zone. Radial shear zone. Okay, and what is this zone? Third, zone 3. So this zone 3 is called as what? Passive zone. Okay, so once you take the equilibrium of this loading condition, then see this derivation is not beyond your scope of syllabus. Okay, so I won't derive the equations, I will directly write the equations. Okay, so simply you have to use those equations. How they come? They come from the equilibrium. of these loading blocks. Okay, so anyway, that derivation is not in your syllabus, so I won't derive it. So I will directly write those formulas. Okay, so he derived for the strip footing. He started with your strip footing. Strip footing. So what is the formula? Tell me. That is your ultimate load bearing capacity. Okay, so QU is nothing but ultimate load bearing capacity is equal to CNC plus QNQ plus 0.5 gamma BN gamma. Okay, so C is the cohesion term and Q is your overburden pressure, and gamma is anyway your unit weight, and B is your breadth of the footing, and NC, NQ, N gamma are what? NC, NQ, and N gamma are bearing capacity factors. They are called bearing capacity factors. Okay, so this is for the strip footing. So what is the formula for the square footing? Square footing, tell me. QU equal to what? 1.3 CNC plus QNQ plus let me write it neatly. QNQ plus what? 0.4 gamma BN gamma. Okay, and similarly for circular footing, what is the formula for the circular footing? QU equal to 1.3 CNC plus QNQ plus 0.3 gamma B N gamma. Okay, how we will get this NC, NQ, N gamma value? Based on the table, or in the examination they will give directly NC, NQ, N gamma for the corresponding phi value. Okay, so depending on phi value, these values will change. Okay, so what is the phi value? Phi is nothing but your angle of internal friction of the soil. Okay, so this is for the general shear case. Okay, so let me write here for general shear failure case. Okay, so let me highlight this one so that it will be visible properly. So these equations are for general shear failure case. Okay, so now the afterwards what he did, he extended this same formula to even local shear failure case also. Okay, so let me write that one here. So for local shear failure case. Okay. What they are doing in the local shear failure case, what they will do, they will use reduced internal phi value. Okay, so how much they are reducing this phi value? By 2/3 times. Okay, so the first whatever phi value they give, now that you have to reduce it. Okay, how you can reduce it? By calculating phi bar value. Okay, so this phi bar value is nothing but tan inverse of 2/3 of tan phi. Okay, so this tan phi is nothing but this phi value. Okay, so you have to reduce the phi value, then the reduced phi value becomes your phi bar value. Okay, so for this phi bar value, now you refer to the same table and then get NC, NQ, N gamma value. Okay, so those itself will become your NC dash, NQ dash, N gamma dash. Okay, So let me write the formula here for the strip footing. For the strip footing, what is the formula? QU equal to 2 by 3, 2/3 of even your cohesion also reducing here. You see, even cohesion also reducing by 2/3 times, and even your angle of internal friction also is reduced by 2/3 times. Okay, so 2/3 CNC dash. Okay, so this is the difference here. Here there is no dash here. Okay, so here we have to put a prime. Okay, so CNC dash plus QNQ dash plus 0.5 gamma B N gamma dash. Okay, so for square footing, what is the formula for the square footing? Same, QU equal to, so 0.867 CNC dash plus QNQ dash. Let me write Q properly. QNQ dash plus 0.4 gamma B N gamma dash. Okay, then for a circular footing, what is the formula? QU equal to 0.867 CNC dash plus QNQ dash plus 0.3 gamma B N gamma dash. Okay, so these are the things we have discussed in our previous class. Okay, so any doubts here till now, whatever I discussed? So this is just I recapped everything, whatever in the 4th chapter, whatever till now we have discussed. Anything you want to ask regarding whatever portion we covered till now? Yes, Gayatri Koli. Gayatri, are you there? Sampath Shirgaovi. Sampath, are you there? Kumar Chawar. Please respond, anybody. Huh? Snehalata?
Yes, sir.
Are you there? Yeah, any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. So I will continue with today's portion. So I think today very less strength. Only 29 people are there. Maybe you people are busy in preparing for your IA test. So I will take for another half an hour. Okay, then I will let you to prepare for your IA exams. So spare half an hour. Okay. So yeah, yesterday we were discussing about this problem, and we calculated also these bearing capacities for the same soil region, for the same soil profile. If you change the shape of the footing, if you use strip footing, or if you use a square footing, or if you use a circular footing, how your bearing capacity will change. That we have seen in our last class. Okay, so today I want to discuss a very important concept. Okay, so that is the effect of groundwater table. So whatever Terzaghi has derived those equations, no, he has assumed that the groundwater table is much lower at a much lower depth, so that there is no influence of that groundwater table on the foundation. So usually, see, if you have a foundation like this, so usually the thumb rule is like this. Okay, so if you have a foundation of width B, of width B, your pressure bulb will extend up to around 1.5 times or 1.5 times of B, or even 1.5 times B will be like your pressure bulb of intensity 10%. So usually the whatever width is there, no, this width equivalent to that width, if you go in the depth direction, so this is my B. So whatever B is there, no, that much B you should go in the depth direction. Beyond this, if you have a water table, there will not be any effect on the bearing capacity of this foundation. Suppose my water table is somewhere here. My water table is somewhere here, and during monsoon, this water table is there. No, this water table is not at the constant level. Always it will fluctuate. This water table always it will fluctuate. Why it will fluctuate? Because in the monsoon season, what will happen? A lot of infiltration will occur. A lot of water will come and it will infiltrate, and what will happen? Your water table may rise. And in summer season, what will happen? All the water will evaporated, and then your water table will go much below the depth of your footing. Okay, so this water table always it will fluctuate depending on the seasonal variation, like whether you are in summer season or in winter season. So this water table always it will fluctuate. So you have to consider for that one. Suppose in the lifetime of this structure, if you consider that water is not going to come near to the foundation depth, near to the depth which is equal to the width of the foundation, then there is no effect of the water table, but which is not true, right? So this water table can come up to here, or it can come up to here also, up to ground level also it may come, this water table. So you have to consider, once the water table will rise, what will happen? Your shear strength of the soil will reduce. A lot of pore pressure will develop and shear strength of the soil will reduce. So at that time, the equations whatever we are using is no longer valid. So you have to apply some correction factors to those. So those things we will see. See, if you see this equation, there are some extra terms. If you see this equation, there are some extra terms like your SC, DC, or IC. So those things, for time being, don't concentrate on these. These are nothing but the shape factors and depth factor and inclination factors. Okay, so these are the this is the improved Terzaghi's bearing capacity equation. Okay, so improved in the sense, see, that's why we are seeing these extra terms, this SC term, DC term, and IC term, and SQ, DQ, IQ, and S gamma, D gamma, I gamma. So these are the extra terms coming because of the some improvements on the Terzaghi's bearing capacity. Okay, so how that improvement took place, that we will see in the coming slides. Now we will concentrate only the groundwater effect. Okay, so now you see, this is my foundation, and this is my depth of the footing. So this is the ground surface. So I have three cases. So the first case is the water table may be may vary between your ground level and depth of footing. So this water table, it can vary from this to up to here. So this is the case one. In the case two, so your water table can vary from your depth of the footing to the depth which is equal to the breadth of footing. You see, this is the breadth of footing. So this is my breadth. Okay. Suppose my breadth is around some 3 meters. So then in that 3 meters from your footing, so the water table can vary. Okay, so that is my second case. And then third case is the water table is at a place beyond the depth equal to your depth of footing plus your width of footing. Okay, so this may be like depth of footing plus your width of footing. If the water table is beyond that limit, then that is my third case. Okay, so I have three cases. One case is the water table is fluctuating between the ground level and the footing level, and second case is the water table is fluctuating between this footing, from the footing level to the depth, which is equal to width of the footing. Okay, and then third case is beyond that, beyond the width of footing. That is my third case. So now, if you look at this bearing capacity equation, C and C, Q and Q, 0.5 gamma B and gamma. So if you see these factors, there are three contributors here. What are those three contributors? So this term is contributed by the cohesion of the soil, and this is my first term, and this is my second term, and this is my third term. And my second term is contributed by the soil present above the footing. Okay, so this one, from this soil. So this soil is responsible for this value, and this soil is responsible for this value. Okay. So this second term is contributed by the frictional contribution of the overburden, pressure, or surcharge load. Okay, so this is the surcharge load. And the third contribution, the frictional contribution of the self weight of the soil below the footing level of the below the footing level in the failure zone. Okay, so the failure zone was like this. Okay, so your wedge zone, then from the wedge zone it will go like this. Okay, so this is the third term is contributed by this soil. So this soil is contributing your third term. Okay, so this soil is contributing your second term. Understood? Okay. Okay. So let me start these cases, different cases. Okay, so case 1, case 2, case 3. So case 1. See, what are the terms we have to, due to this water table, what are the terms it is affecting? Okay, so first term is the terms to be corrected. You see, or Q term, that is your overburden pressure. This term I have to correct, and then gamma B in the third term. Okay, so this term I have to correct. These terms only will change depending on your water table. So let me start see the case 1. Okay, so in the case 1. So what is my case 1? Above foundation depth. So water table is above the foundation depth. Okay. So then what are the changes will happen in Q and gamma B? You see, this is the change will happen. Q is equal to, now how you will calculate Q is equal to, suppose this is the dry soil, right? This soil is dry. So gamma into dW, that is my depth of water. So why I am taking gamma here? You see carefully, you see, I am taking the dry unit weight here. Gamma dry I am taking. If I am writing simply gamma, it is a dry unit weight. Or you can call it even bulk unit weight also. Bulk unit weight also you can take. So whatever unit weight they will give. So bulk or dry. If it is fully dry condition, you can take dry unit weight. If a little bit moisture content is there, then you can take a this bulk density. Then gamma times dW. dW is my width of depth of water table, plus gamma dash into dF minus dW. Okay, so this soil is under submerged condition. This much soil is there, no? This much soil is under submerged condition because of the water table. So that's why I'm taking buoyant submerged unit weight. Okay, so gamma dash into this dF minus dW. That means this much soil. Okay, so this is the first change in your Q. Then look at this third change. What is happening in the third parameter? The third parameter is, anyway, if water table is here, the entire thing is under submerged condition. Entire soil is under submerged condition. That's why this soil also will be under submerged condition. That's why I'm taking gamma dash into B. in the third term. Okay. So simply what you have to take, you have to take if the water table is above the groundwater, above the footing level. So you have to take whatever density is there above the water table, you take that, and then below the water table you take simply the submerged unit weight. You have to take the submerged unit. What is submerged unit weight? Submerged unit weight is nothing but your saturated unit weight minus unit weight of water. Okay. So let us see the case 2. In the case 2, now this is my case 2. Now the water table may fluctuate between your base level of the footing. Okay, so to the level up to depth equal to your width of the footing. Okay, so in this position, if the water table is fluctuating between in this position, then what are the changes? What are the changes will happen? You see, Q will not change. Q is not affected. Why Q is not affected? Because this Q is contributed by this soil. Anyway, this soil is under dry condition. Okay, so that's why Q is not affected. But whereas this soil present is whatever soil present below the footing is there, no? So that is the in some portion is under dry condition and some portion is under saturated condition, right? So you have to take this portion is in dry condition. Okay, so there is no influence of water. That's why I am taking gamma times your depth of water. Gamma times depth of water plus this soil is there, no? This much soil is under submerged condition. Okay, that's why you have to take submerged unit weight times submerged unit weight into what is the depth here. This is nothing but B minus dW. This B is there, no? This B minus dW will give me the depth of a soil or depth of a soil which is under submerged condition. And third case is if the water table is beyond the depth of your beyond the depth equal to the width of footing, then there is no correction is required. Okay, so you can use as it is. There is no need to have any correction at all. Okay. Any doubt here? So in the effect of water table, we have 3 cases. Okay, so first case is the water table can vary from your ground level to the depth equal to your depth of footing. Okay, so in this region it can vary anywhere. Okay, so that is my first case. And second case is the water table can vary from this place to here. Okay, any variation beyond this depth, then no correction is required. Okay, so no correction is required if the water table is fluctuating beyond the depth which is equal to the width of footing. Okay. Any doubt here? This is a very important concept, because if you don't understand this concept, then you cannot solve any problem on this chapter. Okay, so please go through thoroughly this concept, and if you have any doubt, please ask me. Because without the effect of water table, you can't solve any problem on this chapter. So, any doubts here? Rajni Patil, have you understood the this water table effect on the bearing capacity?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sanjana?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt here about fluctuation of water table, the effect of water table on the bearing capacity? So essentially what it is happening, essentially the bearing capacity is reduced by half. Okay, so once we solve the problem, there you will understand. Okay, so depending on the water table position, almost the bearing capacity, suppose without water table, that means in the fully dry condition, if you are getting a bearing capacity something around 200 kilopascal, if the water table rise up to the ground level, then suddenly the 200 kilopascal bearing capacity reduced to 100 kilopascal. Okay, almost 50% will reduce your bearing capacity. Okay, so that's why always you have to design for the worst condition. Your foundation you should design for the worst condition. So what is the worst condition here? The worst condition is the water table is at the ground level itself. Okay, so that is your worst case. So I will stop it here because today's strength is very less. So I don't want to continue it because many people will miss this concept. So after the IA test, we will meet again. So if you have any doubts regarding the assignment, please you are free to discuss now. We have another 5 to 10 minutes. If you have any doubts regarding the assignment. Okay, so because assignment questions are very important, whatever IA I am going to ask, most of the questions will come from those assignments. So if you have any doubts regarding the assignments, assignment 1 and 2. If you don't have any doubt, then I will end this meeting.